Hey, folks, welcome back to the podcast daily. I'm Bill Landis. That's Jeremy Birmingham. Back with our Monday rewatch of Ohio State versus Maryland. You know, a comfortable 20-point win, Burn, with
Nice
nothing
and
at
easy.
all to be concerned about, right? Bucks
Nice
move
and
on.
easy.
Survive in advance, whatever they say. Yeah. Weird experience for me rewatching the game. I think it was for you as well. So unless you have an introductory thought, I say we jump right into the position-by-position breakdown.
Introductory thought. I want to expound on something I said following the game on snap judgments, and then something that I heard you essentially reiterate on the post-game show. And then as I was doing the rewatch, I heard Joel Klatt say the same thing, which is that Maryland is the fourth best team in the Big Ten right now. And I think that going into the game, we all see the gap between Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State and the rest of the Big Ten is so large that you almost feel like those teams aren't worth worrying about ever, but they are getting better. The other teams around the league are improving. And so the scores we've been accustomed to seeing over the last handful of years, I think even without Ohio State shooting itself in the foot over and over again, would be smaller and closer than they have been in recent years. But I do think Maryland was a better team on rewatch than I even thought in person, because I think that they really executed their game plan well, especially in the first half. They didn't make mistakes. Their offensive line was very good as far as, doing what they were supposed to be doing on every play. Talia Tonga Vailoa. I did it. Tonga Vailoa, right?
Tonga Vailoa.
Like, he's good. He's a good quarterback. And I think, we talked all week about Ohio State would need to get to him. You got to pressure him to force him off platform, to force him off rhythm. And when that happened, the game changed. And it's certainly portends what Ohio State needs to do in the future. It's certainly on rewatch. There are some major glaring holes that I'm not sure Ohio State can fix. And so you have to find a way to work around them.
Yeah. I'll agree with everything you said. Like, I think the days of beating Maryland like 63-3 are over. I actually, you and I think are on opposite sides of the fence here from Austin. I think Mike Loxley's done a pretty good job with that program and elevated it a little bit and made it more consistent than it has been. Like, are they ever going to win the Big Ten? No, I don't think that's ever going to happen, but there's a level of talent there on both sides of the ball now, actually, that I don't think Maryland has had very often during its existence in the Big Ten. So like they're solid, right? It's not to excuse Ohio State won by 20. Ohio State probably should have won by like 35, but because Ohio State is making its own mistakes. Maryland's decent.
This isn't New Mexico State Mike Loxley.
Yeah,
okay, this is a guy who went to the Saban finishing school and understands some things. He's got a good staff. He's got a great recruiting background and fertile area there in Maryland. The transfer portal and the transfer era has allowed a lot of those kids who used to go away or even still are leaving the DMV to come back and contribute later in their careers. Like, it's a pretty solid football team all around. I don't think that it's a program that people should look at and say, oh, well, I mean, they're not this year's Minnesota team, I guess is my, major takeaway there.
Yeah. And if Ohio State can, get out of first gear in the first quarter or finish a couple drives differently, then maybe this doesn't sound like excuse making. It's not. It's truly not for me. It's like Ohio State made a lot of mistakes in this game. That the margin being what it was, I still think is more about Ohio State than it is about Maryland. But Maryland is decent. Maybe the best version of Maryland that Ohio State has played. I would think maybe.
You said something. You said something post game that I had been thinking while I was filming The Notebook with Austin. I was just trying to think about my thoughts for snap judgments. And I really do believe Maryland will win every game this year that they play, except for Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. And if that's a pretty damn good bar if you're Maryland right now. So
yeah. And maybe it's more, this conversation is more for people who didn't watch the game and just see like, oh, Ohio State barely covered against Maryland. What's that about? Like, Maryland played well in the first half, and Ohio State adjusted on both sides of the ball and showed that they are the much better team and program in the second half of that game. But you want to see Ohio State do that in the first half. Like, that's what Kyle McCord and Ryan Day said after the game. Like, they have to get to a place where they're doing that from the jump, because having to overcome slow starts and having to hope your defense can sort of like help the offense tread water while it figures its stuff out is no way to operate once you get into the Penn States and Michigans and whatever might come after that of the world. They survived against Notre Dame. They did it in this game against a slightly worse opponent, I suppose. But I don't think you can keep doing that if you want to finish the season off the way you want to. So
you'll be down 21-0. You'll be down 21-0 if you do that against Penn State in 2 weeks. So that's a problem. But I think that leads us into the first talking point: quarterback play. We'll go position by position. The question is, in my mind, are these slow starts a product of Kyle McCord or Ryan Day? Or is it the offense coming out and doing things that are not putting it like? There are certainly things that he could have done, like the first play of the game, for example. Drop back there, and my note here says, "Fire that effing pigskin." Okay, like you have Marvin Harrison on the first play of the game. That play is actually set up pretty well. You would have got 8-9 yards. Just throw the ball to the guy that's standing there. I mean, there's no excuse for McCord to be short on that pass. Like, period. I'd rather you throw it 10 feet over his head than throw it at his feet, because there's even if he catches that ball the way that a healthy Marv probably would have, where the ball is thrown is going to cost you anyway, and it's not going to be the play that it should have been. If the ball's delivered with purpose and delivered on time, you're picking up 8-9 yards and the chains are moving early. So I don't know why Kyle McCord seems to start slow, but I do know that Ryan Day, like we talked for the last 2 weeks about whether or not Ryan Day would come into this game and allow the offense to sort of open up and give Kyle McCord a chance to do the things that he showed he could do at the end of the Notre Dame game, when you just sit back in the pocket and fire that effing pigskin, right? And then that first incompletion happens, and you pick up 8 yards on the next play, right? So on the run play, which was probably the best blocked run play of the entire day for Ohio State. And then it's 3rd and 2, and like you get sacked. Like, come on.
He didn't get sacked. It was a scramble and a throwaway. On the first 3rd and 2.
You're right.
But I thought, like, so you're right from the jump. I sense the lack of urgency from Kyle. And that first play, it's like an RPO screen, and it's just like a lazy throw into the ground. And then on the 3rd and 2 play, like Doug and I were going back and forth about this. There looked like there was a window there for him to throw it like immediately to G. Scott if he wanted to, but he hesitated, and then he pulled it down, and then he tried to throw it down the field, and it was incomplete. And like hesitation
was actually he had Stover in the flat to his left that was wide open, that would have got 3 yards and kept the moving, and he just never looked his way. And I said he got sacked, but on my notes, first 3rd down, 3rd and 2, Stover wide open and started play, and after scramble, but default is default oblique play is to look for Marv. So like things break down, and he instantly says, "How do I find Marvin Harrison?" And Marv is running 54 yards across the field. And you had Stover still available, even on the scramble. He scrambles into the pressure, but Stover's right there, and you could have dumped it to him and got the 2 yards. It's just, I wonder if Ryan Day goes into a game like that thinking, okay, we're going to open it up. We're going to let Kyle do this stuff. And then that first drive, you see the short throw, and you see an indecisive, play on 3rd down where you're like, is he ready? And then I do wonder if Ryan Day instantly goes back into the, not to pardon the pun since they're playing Maryland, but right back into his shell and says, okay, now we're going to take it easy from here.
Yeah, he might. It wasn't like in the Notre Dame game, right? We said like they tried to take a shot right away, and that wasn't the case with this game. And the first time they did try one, which I actually think speaks to the lack of urgency that I mentioned. Like they ran one of those deep play action concepts, and it kind of gets blown up, and Kyle is pressured, and he just sort of burns one on the ground. But like he actually could have completed that pass to Chip Traynham. Like he got frustrated that the play didn't work, and he just like throws it away instead of actually throwing it to Chip. And Chip was there with nobody around him. He catches it. It might not be a first down, but it might be like, an 8-yard gain. It was only first down. It wasn't a 3rd down play. So like it didn't kill a drive, but I thought that was just like, stay in it, man. Like hang in there. I think Ryan Day and Kyle McCord both suffer from like, crap, the first thing we wanted to do is not there. What do we do now? And for Ryan Day, it's like, my play didn't work. I guess I'll run it. And for Kyle McCord, it's like the first read's not there. I guess I'll look for Marv or throw it into the ground. Like there needs to be more patience, I think, involved with both of them, which I did think did show up later in the game. Yeah. Just like both of them sort of operating that way in the first quarter made the offense struggle to really do much of anything.
Watching on TV, I really appreciate watching Joel Klatt call a game because he is a former college quarterback, and so he sees things in a way that quarterbacks generally do. And he was very early in the game making the point that Kyle McCord is abandoning the concepts of the plays too early. And some of that, though, I mean, is because he's young and getting his feet under him. Some of it is, I think, just panic because the offensive line is causing so much unexpected chaos. I mean, there was a play in the fourth quarter, or I say at that point it was up 10, where the offensive line the Maryland blitzes both linebackers off on Josh Simmons' side, and Josh goes to the inside guy for some reason, and then Chip has to try to swing around to get to the outside guy, and that's the play that they have an 18-yard loss on a pass play, right? Because no one blocked anybody because Josh Simmons went to the wrong guy. I assume. I mean, again, this is where I don't know for sure, but I look at it, and logic to me would dictate that the offensive tackle should take the wide rusher, and that the fullback / running back should be able to step up into the C gap, and block the other guy. So I don't know exactly how much of this is Kyle McCord not having confidence in the guys in front of him, in having ultimate confidence in Marv, but like there's other plays in this game where you look at it and the pass to Fleming, if he throws that ball well, it's a touchdown easy. Instead, Julian has to make a really difficult sliding catch. And Ohio State scored the next play, so no harm, no foul. But like that's the type of play where you can't miss that throw. He's wide open. You have a 3rd and 7 in the second quarter. Ohio State down 10-7, starting to get a little bit of momentum going. It's 3rd and 7, and he throws to Marvin Harrison for the safe throw, which is like a nice 6-yard gain. Cool, but you're at your own 42-yard line. And on that play, he had Cade Stover running down the seam, which would have been a 30 or 40-yard play, and because he just there's something going on. It's funny because like there's no urgency, but that internal clock is moving faster than it should. So I don't exactly know how to jive those things, because you figure a kid who's playing with no sense of doesn't look like he's playing with a sense of urgency early in the game wouldn't be so sped up internally.
Yeah, it is. I mean, combination of inexperienced quarterback and offensive line that's not blocking people is a bad combination. I think there are times. This is maybe the worst their pass protection was all season. There are other times where I think, like to your point, like Kyle's clock is off a little bit and he's checking down too quickly. I did think he kind of shook himself out of that in the second half. So like I want to make sure we make that point. Like I thought his second half,
he was great in the second half. He was great in the second half. I mean,
like he had the second to last touchdown drive, like the drive that ended with a long pass to Cade Stover. Earlier on that drive, he had it was like an 8-yard completion to Julian Fleming, but it was a concept they had called a couple times earlier in the game, just like a simple kind of curls thing where Kyle, I think earlier, had looked hesitant. This play, he like drops back, he looks at Cade Stover, he makes the linebacker move to Cade Stover, he opens the window with his eyes, and then just throws a bullet to Julian for a simple 8-yard gain. Like that's all you got to do, man. Like it doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And he had a really nice throw to Marvin down the sideline later in that drive too. So like he settled in. It just took a while.
I thought that play to Marv was actually interesting because it was set up by that screen that they ran on the first play of the game, because it was a pump fake to Marv on the screen, then he released down the sideline, and it was a great throw by Kyle. The touchdown to Marv, both times he threw the touchdown to Marv, were great throws. I'm not sure what the hell that official was calling. Whatever. I don't think that
it was weird. Both teams were running that motion all game. He decided to call that.
Well, they showed Ryan Day on the sideline going, "You haven't called that all game. We've been doing it all game."
Yeah,
I think that official, that line judge, he's from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I did a little research. I just don't think he likes Ryan Day, because I'm not sure how he called Ryan Day for a sideline interference either on the 58-yard or the 30, the second and 33. I did say on this 1st and 10 on the second drive, the screen pass that you're talking about to Chip. I have a thing on my notes that says things I wonder, and it's this: on the screen play, number would have been a huge play if it's completed, because it was set up really nicely. Is Kyle McCord dropping too far back because he threw that ball from 13 yards deep in the pocket because the pressure got to him faster than he thought? Or is Chip running that route incorrectly because he seemed to get caught up in the wash of his offensive lineman and then was like 5 yards down the field for the screen instead of 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, it's probably some combination of both. I felt like there were a few plays where like the timing of things was off, including in the run game. So, which like you don't want to see when you're coming off an off week and you presumably had a lot of time to work on that stuff. That's like the most frustrating thing with all this is like they were so out of sync on offense and they had like 10 days to prepare for this game and they still looked like that. So I don't know. I think like if I were giving it a grade for Kyle, I'd probably give him like a C plus because I do think the start was pretty bad, or maybe B minus. I don't know. C plus.
I would say I would go B minus just because the finish was so good.
The finish was
and
good. Yeah,
like I realize it's a 4-quarter game, and I realize everyone wants perfect every play. But if you're asking me, would I rather have my quarterback be slightly off and delayed in the first quarter, or right on the money in the fourth? I'm going to take the latter. While we're on quarterbacks, I do have to wonder how it wasn't intentional grounding on Talia Tonga Viola.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah.
And then it was on Kyle McCord on the screenplay when the Buckeyes have a tunnel screen set up right in front of him and he threw the ball and it hit a defensive line.
It hit a defensive player like it was a pass deflection.
I'm not sure how I've ever seen that. But again, I think it was the same line judge. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that was everyone in the stadium wanted intentional grounding on Talia too. I was like, I thought it was like, how is it not?
Yeah, he wasn't out of the pocket. He didn't go beyond the line of scrimmage. And I don't care that there was a receiver in the general vicinity. He was scrambling and just turned around and said, "Oh crap," and threw it. Like
he threw it into the A deck. It wasn't like it was clearly not an attempt to complete it. Yeah,
unbelievable. Let's see any other quarterback notes. No, honestly, to wrap up QB, like I want to see Kyle McCord be less safe. Sometimes that's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Trust your talent, and Ryan Day said it after the game. Like he has the talent, you can see it. It's just he has to just pull it out of him sometimes, and I don't think you should have to do that. He joked in the post-game press conference about maybe we need to have him run some laps or something in pregame. Maybe we just need to be more intentional and more up tempo in pregame and make more throws. I don't know what's causing it, but he just doesn't seem to be into the game ever in the first half of the first quarter.
Yep. All right. So you and I talked before this, and we said we weren't going to make this an hour-long episode. Yeah. So before we get to what I'm imagining will be a little bit of a lengthy offensive line conversation, do you have any thoughts on a running back, receiver, tight end?
I think you and Doug did a good job in the postgame show of underscoring why Chip Trayanum is a good complementary back to Travion Henderson, and maybe neither one of them are your first, second, third down bell cow running back right now. But it's clear that Chip Trayanum, for all the conversation we've seen from a lot of people in the last couple of weeks, of saying, "Oh, he's got to be the guy. He's not the same guy if you're getting him 20 times. You need that change of pace." He had a number of times in this game where he made a little bit more out of nothing than was there, and there were a number of other times when there was something there that he got less out of. And I think that's just what you're going to get. I don't know. I liked what we saw to Mayan Williams in the fourth quarter. Again, the guy has had one carry in the last month, so like I don't know that I would have put Mayan in the game when they did, or in the second quarter when he just, the offense was clunky, and then you bring in a guy who hasn't played. I don't know that I necessarily would have gone that route and then throwing the screen to him and stuff like that. My question is, if you're going to get 4 games out of Dallin Hayden, why the hell not this one if you don't have Travion Henderson on the field? Because he is the closest approximation to what Travion Henderson brings you. And I guess I'm really hoping it's hard to ask. See, people will be like, well, why don't you guys just ask the coaches about it in press conferences? Like you get one question and there's maybe a bunch of other things that are on your mind that are seemingly more pressing than the 4th or 5th running back. But I hope we do get an understanding of like, what is the plan for Dallin Hayden this season? Because you still get 4 games. There's only 6 games, 7 games left at this point. So why not run him out there in this one?
Yeah, that's a question that needs to be asked this week. I think we'll get asked this week. I agree with everything you said on running back. I don't have many thoughts on receiver other than I hope Emeka Ibuka is okay. My only big thought
that looked bad on TV. That reminded me of Jackson Smith and Digbo. You're like, wow, that just looks uncomfortable,
awkward. Yeah,
and he was in a boot after the game, but he's in a boot. It wasn't on his knee. So that's the interesting thing. Like on the field, you could see on the TV replay they were working on like his shin almost.
Yeah,
and so Jenny Taft in the TV broadcast said that it was a right knee that they were like, and that I don't think that was the case because when they showed him on the ground getting worked on, they were dealing with his left shin. So, and he was wearing a boot on his left foot. So that's a bigger. I think he just got rolled up on his foot and maybe a bone bruise or something on the ankle. I'm just going to say right now, if I'm Ohio State, I don't play him next week, and then you get him ready for Penn State.
No way. Don't play. Yeah. Don't play him next week. Because he's whatever it is, it's not going to be 100%. So I wouldn't play him next week. Although they did play Marv this week. So what do I know?
Marv I think Marvin's fine. Okay. So
he appears to be okay.
That's what Austin and I said pregame. Like, I think had we known a year ago that he had an injury, like, people would have asked him about it and it would have been a big deal all year. And Austin's like, well, why is everyone making it a big deal now? I'm like, because now we know that it happened and we all watched it on TV. So now it's like, a thing. But he seems to be fine.
Yeah, it didn't seem to bother him.
Wide receiver, fine. Tight end, fine. I'm just, I like
12 personnel. Too much 12 personnel.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like every damn snap.
If you have the best receivers, but it seems obvious they're doing that because they can't get what they want out of the offensive line, right?
Yeah, but then they still weren't running the ball with two tight ends on the field. Like, they
weren't running the ball when Maryland was in a drop 8 either. So, because let's talk about the offensive line.
Okay, let's do it.
Why does every team in the country have free runners in the hole? That's a 2023 Doug Lesmerises classic. If you haven't heard it, it's on vinyl. I think you can get it at Target. And Ohio State never does, because Ohio State's linebackers are being eaten by offensive linemen, and Ohio State's offensive linemen never get to linebackers. How do you fix it?
I mean, part of it, I think, is running different plays. Like, I don't know how many times you need to run the stretch play and see it not work before you stop, but I guess the answer is a lot, because we keep seeing it. They just can't do it. They can't.
I mean, that's the thing. They can't do it, right? Because it's not like the situation is we're going to keep running it and practicing it till they get it. Like, they just can't do it.
Yeah. There's no guarantee that running different plays will make it look better. I just know that these plays don't look good. And like, there was a time earlier in the season where I thought, like, oh, well, run more gap schemes, right? They seem to run gap schemes pretty well. And then they ran them against Maryland and they looked awful. The one guard tackle counter play they ran, I think it was at the end of the second quarter, might have been the worst blocked run play I've ever seen. Like, Josh Fryer blocked Cade Stover on the play. Like, what is happening? And like Joel Klatt said it multiple times, like, getting targeted. They are not blocking the right people and getting to the right people. It's a mess. And it hasn't gotten any better. In fact, I think it's gotten worse, which is like very alarming to me.
It certainly looked worse. I mean, there's that play, which you're talking about, where Fryer pulls and just runs into Cade Stover for some reason. If that play's blocked correctly, it's a 72-yard touchdown run.
It's a big hit, yeah.
Because the safety had come down and got caught up in the wash, and Chip would have been able to get around. Like, on Chip's touchdown run on the little toss, which was a nice play, a nice stamp, a nice change of pace, especially because it's to the field side. You have a little bit, like, Matthew Jones was pulling on that play and didn't touch anyone.
He's going to get there, yeah.
But Chip outran everyone to the corner, so that's fine. My note here says there are so many things that look wrong with the offensive line that I have no idea where to start. And because I am not an offensive line guy, but it is clear that if Josh Simmons is not directly lined up from a guy, and that guy is the straight up pass rusher against him, he has no idea what's going on. And I mean, the second possession of the game for Ohio State, Comacore gets sacked on a 3rd and 10 or whatever, because Josh Fryer gets beat, and Maryland loops a linebacker around, and Josh Simmons just couldn't get anywhere near the guy. So even if McCord would have been able to step up and avoid the guy who beat Josh Fryer, he would have been wiped out by the linebacker who was looping around. Maryland in the first quarter, Ohio State sent a double A gap blitz with Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg, and Maryland picked it up perfectly. It was a deep shot down the side. Like, it was like he had a totally clean pocket. It seems like every other team in the country knows how to do this stuff. Why is Ohio State not doing it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, they're suffering from a talent deficiency up front, but they don't appear to be very well coached right now. I don't think Justin Fry is doing a good job with this offensive line. I thought he did a good job last year.
They're more talented than Maryland is on the offensive line. They are. I mean, I think
Maryland's tackles are better than Ohio State's tackles.
They certainly looked to be more athletic and certainly looked to be more competent on Saturday, and that is a holy crap concern. And that's why I said early, I don't know that you can fix it. So you have to find a way around it. But
yeah,
how do you get around the offensive line, Bill? Like, it's the most important part of the offense.
I mean, I will say I'm not overly concerned with like pass protection. I think the pass protection has been decent this year. It's not been great. It is perhaps the worst of the Ryan Day era, but that's also a really high bar because they've been excellent at it since he's been the head coach. So like I think that area is good enough. And well, I guess we'll see. Maybe those are famous last words. We'll see what happens when they play Penn State in 2 weeks. But I don't know. I think it's like a lot of lineup and 11 personnel, a lot of RPO stuff, like keep the defense on its heels a little bit so they're not just coming after your offensive line.
Doesn't
Because if your idea,
Tom McCord knowing what he's doing though, there was one play early in the game. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you made me think of it. Where is it here? I think it might be in my things I wonder section.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 1st and 10 on the second drive of the game after Ohio State picks up their first down. The Marvin Harrison and Emeka Ibuka and Julian Fleming are all running routes down the field, not looking to block anybody. G. Scott, who's lined up, they're in the 12 personnel. G. Scott runs a little route at the line of scrimmage. And then Kyle McCord hands the ball to Chip Trainum, and he runs it for 1 yard or 2 yards right into the middle of.
Yeah.
Like that's an RPO, right? Because everyone else. So if McCord is seeing it wrong and handing the ball off to a guy who's running into an 8-man box at that point, like it doesn't matter if you're running RPOs.
Fair question. If that were the case all the time, then no, probably not. I think more often than not, Kyle has made the right decisions on those kind of plays. That I agree with you was not the right decision, but they actually ran a decent amount. I want to say they ran like 6 or 7 in this game, and I think most of them hit for nice gains.
And I know people on the show have asked why we can't have just video of the play we're talking about. But number one, technology-wise, that's be difficult. Number two, we want to make sure this video can be monetized and not struck down by Fox Sports. So that's why we're trying to give you an idea of the time and situation. Second drive of the game for Ohio State, second series after the first down. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think you're right about that particular play. I actually think Kyle operates the RPO quite well, and they should do it more. It's like what he did at St. Joe's Prep in high school. I think it's maybe what suits him best. Like some of their best pass plays up until they got rolling and like late in the second half, like their best pass plays in the first quarter and first half were like quick RPOs to Marvin and Emeka.
Yeah.
Where they turned like an 8-yard catch into a 13-yard gain. I think they need to do more of that stuff. I don't think the heavy. If you're going to run stretch as much as they're running it, then heavy play action has to be a part of it, and they did get to it more in the second half. But I also think, it paid off, and that's why they keep doing it. But it doesn't make it any less frustrating.
Can't you run that to the wide side though? Like, I mean, you just eventually just do it. At least give yourself a little bit of room to operate.
Yeah, I mean, no matter which direction they ran it in this game, it didn't work. But yes,
I think that's what Maryland. Other teams are doing well. So Ohio State obviously is in the shotgun like everyone else most of the time. But because there's at least an element of the read option, there's Sam Hartman does a nice job with the mesh and trying to keep the ball hidden. I don't think Ohio State does enough of that to stop the linebackers from coming straight downhill. And if you're not having your offensive linemen get to the next level, don't you have to add some way to slow down those linebackers that are like you can deal with one linebacker through the hole, right? Because you hope that your running back can make a guy miss or outrun him. But both of them untouched every time, you have to find some way to offset that. And don't you do it by misdirection or potential read option look or more play action out of the shotgun, like something?
Yeah, I think they need to run more like second level RPOs, like a lot of, and not, I say RPO as like as an all encompassing term. Like some of the stuff is more like reliefs. Ryan Day calls them. They're like extensions of the run game. Like those like bubbles and passes to the flat and stuff. But they don't do a whole lot of faking a run, reading a defender, and then throwing the ball down the field. And that's the kind of stuff where linebackers like don't know what planet they're on and either get hesitant coming down against the run, or if they're not, then you just throw it over their head. And like that's what teams did to Ohio State's linebackers for like 2 years, and they didn't know what they were doing.
And Notre Dame did, and
and I don't know why Ohio State doesn't do more of that. They just don't do it very often. It's like it'll show up like once every 5 games, like, oh, that was cool, we should do more of that, and then it'll disappear for another 5 games. So I hope they do it. I think they need to do it, but I don't know that they will.
Yeah. Bottom line, offensive line is bad. It's bad.
It's bad. Yeah. It's the thing that is disappointing is like I didn't think, and I didn't think anyone should have expected them to be awesome at the start of the year, right? They were clearly going to have to work through some stuff, but now we're 5 games in and coming off of a week off where you had a chance to identify some weaknesses, and they just don't appear to be getting any better. Like that's the thing.
And,
that's really
and it almost looks like they took a step backwards. So
yeah, so I don't know what that is. Like, what is your level of concern right now that that's going to cost them a game?
100%.
Yeah,
It's going to cost them
high.
a game at some point.
It's pretty high for me too.
It's going to cost them a game at some point, and one way or another, like I said, they I'm sure. And I was thinking about this during the game, watching the screen tomorrow, watching the stuff that they do over and over again. I do wonder how much you're setting up down the road, like certain plays for Penn State, or but that doesn't change the fact that if you can't block the guy in front of you, it doesn't matter what you do. And the talent that they're going to face against Penn State, against Michigan, again, if in the playoff, if they get there, is just going to be way better. And eventually that's going to cost you again. So
are we, somebody asked me this. I can't remember who asked me. I don't know if it was like someone in my personal life or someone on the texters or someone like on the board. I can't remember, but we're past the point of like trying new guys, right?
I think you have to. I mean, I did like what Zach Boren said on the Sunday Blitz. The idea of moving Matthew Jones to center is something I would tinker with probably, because I do think maybe you're interested in trying Tegra Shabola or Luke Montgomery or something else. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly not ideal. And you're not going into week 6 halfway through the season going, you know what we need to do? Figure out who our best offensive linemen are, because that's something you do 6 months ago. But here we are.
I mean, if they would have done that against Youngstown State and Western Kentucky, or frankly, even this week and next week against Purdue, like I don't think that's a terrible idea, but they didn't do it. And now, like, I don't know that you say like, oh, let's mess around a little bit in the Purdue game and see what happens before we go play maybe the best front in the country in Penn State. Like, I don't think that's a world you want to be living in.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Speaking of defensive fronts, Tyleik Williams is pretty good, man.
Special player, Tyleik Williams. Having a really good season.
Always said it.
Yeah, I thought they were all good. I thought, well, not all.
Him and Michael Hall played really well against Maryland. I don't have a lot of notes on the defensive tackles other than I said continue to love the effort from 91. That's the biggest thing for me is like he's doing things even when he's not making tackles, or like he's chasing the quarterback down the field. Like he's doing things that he was not doing before. Mm-hmm. I mentioned it on snap judgments, but it's something that just bears watching, I guess. On the Lathan Ransom interception, like the team celebrating, going crazy afterward, and Tyleik Williams was still trying to get off the ground and looked to be sort of pissed off, and like maybe re-aggravated what's been bothering him. So, but that happened at the end of the Notre Dame game too. So, he's also playing a lot of snaps and more than he's ever played. So I'm sure he's just a little bit fatigued.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need him. What did he play in this game, snaps wise? Do you have 70?
Maryland
had 70 snaps.
Maryland had what, 73 offensive plays? 72.
I did not realize it was that many.
Yeah, there was three plays when Jaden McKenzie came in for him, I think, and that was it.
Yeah, man, that is a lot. He played 70. JT played 69. Jack played 53. Mike Hall played 40. Ty Hamilton played 30. Caden Curry played 16. Kenyatta Jackson played 13. McKenzie played 6 and Hero Canoe played 3. I guess that was at the end of the game. So, man, I didn't realize that Tyleik was on the field that much.
No, that's a lot. And I think it's something you have to be concerned about heading into the games against better offensive linemen from here.
I mean, it doesn't appear to be affecting him. So like, I guess until it does, I won't be overly concerned about it. It's just crazy that he went from like a guy who isn't conditioned well enough to play more than 25 snaps a game, and now he's playing 70 against Maryland. That's a big old number. But he continues to play well. So,
and so does JT Tuimoloau. Like,
he's awesome, man. Like he's really good.
I think he's a guy that we're going to look back on and go, man, he was way better than he got credit for being, because people are so caught up in sacks. Like the sack that he got on Saturday, he wasn't blocked, and so easy. But what he did, what I think was really impressive of JT on Saturday, Maryland, I'm sure you noticed, was running a lot of pull action with their offensive linemen, and they're running it from his side. And as the games went along, like he just decided, I'm not I'm just going to shoot straight down the line. And like that sort of adjustment that he made, and he made a huge play on the 4th and 3, but Maryland went for at the 27-yard line when it was 27-17. And like he makes an incredible play there to force the guy to cut back, and Cody Simon and Sonny Styles clean it up. But like he just does all the right things, man. All the little things are there. And I wish that he would do what he did on Lathan Ransom's interception more often. Did you see what he did on that?
Is that the spin move?
Yes.
Yeah, inside spin move. Yeah.
He does an inside spin move, and he pulls it out like once every 3 weeks. And when that happens, good things happen, because he was immediately in Taulia's face, forced him to roll out, and that leads to the interception. I like he has the capability to, and I know Larry Johnson doesn't love when the defensive linemen freelance and do stuff like that, because they just want him to turn their back to the quarterback. But like, this is football now, and you need to find some way. If the game for the offensive tackle is you lining up in a almost like a wide 9 most of the game and just going outside, like the quarterbacks are throwing the ball in 2 seconds, so or less. So you better find a way to get to the quarterback faster.
Yeah, I screenshotted the play on the first drive of the game where JT's lined up in a wide 9, and he like the ball's in the middle of the field, and he's like 2 yards outside of the hashes. He's like 11 yards away from Taulia Tagovailoa. It's like, how do you ever expect him to get there?
I think,
and then he didn't.
Is that the play where it was 3rd and 1 for Maryland at the end of the first quarter, and Maryland had their right guard and right tackle completely uncovered, and JT is lined up in a wide 9, and it's 3rd and 1, and Ohio State was relying on Sonny Styles and Josh Proctor to like fill the hole, but they were both 10 yards deep. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it was
3rd and 1.
Yeah.
And so they easily picked up 2 yards, and then Josh got there, and he was a fraction of a second late, and that's all you have to be in that instance to get the first down. It was weird. That's one play where I was on the field, and I looked back at the camera like, where the hell is the defensive lineman? Because I took a shot of the offensive line. I'm like, where is JT Tuimoloau? And then I watched the replay on the board. I'm like, oh, that's weird.
We call not lining anyone up over the offensive tackles the Notre Dame play, and guess what? It worked just as well for Ohio State too. I thought
Jackson drew a hold. Pretty awesome. It's nice that the officials decided to call one of those against Ohio State's opponent for the first time, I think, this season. So cool.
Caden Curry, you happy to see Caden Curry out there?
And I said this on Snap Judgments, and again, I sometimes I know we rehash things, but trying to just mesh these thoughts together. I don't want to be too harsh on Jack Sawyer, because I don't know that he's being asked to do the same things that they're asking Caden Curry or Kenyatta Jackson to do when they're in the game. It seems like when Jack is in the game, his role is to just, keep the edge, hold the edge, not let anybody outside. And so I don't think he's being asked to go after the quarterback or get upfield the way that maybe Caden and Kenyatta are. But I do think it was noticeable on Saturday that when Caden Curry or Kenyatta Jackson were in the game, opposite JT, not the other way, because there was a time earlier or in the third quarter, when JT was off the field and Kenyatta Jackson was on the field for JT opposite Jack. But when it's Kenyatta or Caden opposite JT, the pressure was noticeably different.
Which I think is that's your point, right? That Jack and JT are more similar than they are different. So why not put sort of like guys that give you a different look on the other side of them? Because I think they do. Like, it's not like Caden Curry wasn't getting after the quarterback on every play, right? But he's so unique that it's just like, whoa, what is this? And then on the other side of the line, like JT just gets to eat because Caden Curry is like causing a little bit of a ruckus on the other side, even if he's not actually getting sacks. So
yeah, because he's at least forcing the offensive lineman to look at something different. Like they don't know where he's going to go.
Yeah,
and he's really, really high motor, and like I think people just pick up on that. I mean, it felt different when they were on the game, and I'm not trying to be hard on Jack, because I thought he played a pretty okay game in doing what he's asked to do. It feels like everyone has their role, and Jack's role to me is not that different, as I've said since the summer, than JT Tuimoloau's, and I don't think they should be on the field at the same time.
It
straight up run play, and that's coming.
Yeah, it remains weird to me that we don't see more Mitchell Melton.
I felt bad for Mitchell on Saturday because in the first quarter, early part of the second quarter, stadium is kind of meh. Everyone's sort of down. Every commercial, every timeout, Mitchell Melton was on the sideline running his ass off, like getting himself ready. Like he was still full of energy. Like I don't know why he's not in the game.
Played 3 snaps. I'm all at the end. I think he's played 22 snaps this year.
Yeah,
season high of 8 against Western Kentucky. Didn't play against Notre Dame.
It's puzzling because I mean I'm not dismissing that he could stop the run. He's long. He's like got good strength. Like it's strange.
Just even if it was just like as a pass rush specialist, right? There were a couple of third and very longs in this game that I think I don't know. Maybe he can't do it, but I am led to believe that he can because of how much Jim Knowles talks about him. So I don't know, just odd that they don't use. It's not even about it's not a Jack conversation. It's like he's got some pass rush skills to him. You have no doubt about it. Passing situations, you're having some trouble getting to the quarterback. Why not see what Mitchell Melton can do? But I guess they're not interested in that.
Especially because you see the Buckeyes are adapting at other positions. If guys aren't making an impact or maybe aren't playing particularly well, Steel Chambers has had a rough couple games, and you see now the uptick in snaps for Cody Simon, who stepped in and made some plays for Ohio State on Saturday. So I don't know. I'm trying not to be harsh. Again, I mean, I'm aiming for objective, not fanatical cynicism. I don't think Tommy Eichenberg played particularly well against Maryland. I don't think he played particularly well against Notre Dame. I do think upon rewatching that he's still playing better than Steel Chambers right now.
Yeah. And
I'm not sure what is happening with Steel, if these offenses are just confusing the Buckeyes, or if they're just the eye discipline is wrong, if it's what you and Doug posited after the game, which is because the defense now is asking them to be less aggressive, that maybe these guys are just not read and react type linebackers, and that they look out of place in this sort of style. I don't know what it is, but like, I guess the question is, if you are really good up front and you're really good in the back end, the linebackers are going to look, someone's going to look worse, right? You can't have it all the time, but it's the little things. It's the missed tackles. It's just getting juked out of your socks by Talia at an 8-yard touchdown run, like where you don't even touch the guy. Like it's Tommy Eichenberg having a clear shot on a 3rd and 2 play to tackle Tonga Vailoa in the backfield and just whiffing on him for some reason. That ends up being a 12-yard run. Like those things where you're like, that would not have happened a year ago, and I don't know what is causing it.
It's very strange. I think part of it is, and Steel Chambers said this, so I'm just repeating what he said because, I'm not on the field. He said that they played with bad eyes against Notre Dame, and I thought they did the same against Maryland. And Maryland is a team that had coming into Saturday. I wanted to check this because I just thought we saw a lot of gap runs from them, a lot of pin pull stuff from Maryland, and I thought, well, is that what they do all the time? They do run it a fair amount, but they're pretty balanced. So they had been balanced between that and zone runs coming into this game. They were not against Ohio State. It was like 90% gap scheme because Ohio State had a hard time stopping it. And part of that is the linebackers, I think, just not seeing things very well. Tommy and Steele both, and even Cody Simon. Like Cody Simon was good against Notre Dame. I thought he was less so against Maryland. He was I kind of would lump all three of them together in this particular game. And I truly think it is what you said and what Doug and I talked about, that they're just being asked to do different stuff that maybe doesn't accentuate their strengths as much and maybe might actually expose their weaknesses a little more. But if you're asking them to read and react and take on more blockers at the second level than maybe they were last year, they're small, 1 and 2. I just don't know if they see it well enough. So I'm on the lookout for adjustments with Jim Knowles, I guess. But I will say I felt like against the gap runs in particular, they did start to play them better in the second half than they were in the first half, and Tommy especially. So I'm willing to consider that maybe it's just like a bad little stretch of football here, and they'll get it turned around. But it is bad, and it's only bad because they set such a high standard last year. It's not like we're just holding them up against what we saw from them last year, which was very good.
And Jim Knowles said it on Tuesday last week that Tommy Eichenberg is the quarterback of the defense. So like people who are clamoring for him to be taken off the field, like you wouldn't take the quarterback off the field. And there's nobody else that understands what he's capable. Nobody understands the offenses the way he does. And maybe he's out of place, or maybe he's getting caught up in the wash, but the other guys are where they need to be. And maybe that's because of Tommy. So like while the instinct, I think, is say, hey, let's play the guy who's a better read and react player, potentially like CJ Hicks, who's more hyper athletic and that sort of stuff. I think you have to ask yourself how much of a drop off you're willing to get from viewing the offense as a whole. I don't know.
Tommy did have 13 tackles.
Yeah, I mean, he's active. I mean, it's not, he didn't play. There's just times when you look at him and like, he's just running. I mean, last year it seemed like every time Tommy guessed the gap that the runner was going to, he was right.
Yes.
And it didn't look that way against Notre Dame, and it didn't look like that way against Maryland. So again, your point is well taken. I think that it's comparing him to what he did a year ago, and the defense is different. And so his role may be different, and we just don't get all those answers all the time. I don't have anything on the cornerbacks because I think they're really good. That's all.
I thought they were like, Denzel Burke gave up like one catch. Davis Igmanosin got beat on that touchdown. That was a hell of a catch. I thought he was in a good enough spot there.
There were multiple throws that Talia made in this game and catches that were like that. Kudos, hat tip. Like, you're playing against good players and they're going to make good plays. Great play by Prather on that catch. Sonny Styles twice in this game had really good coverage when a guy just made a good catch. Jordan Hancock probably got away with a defensive PI on the Maryland second half touchdown drive, which got him into the red zone. But the guy still made a leaping catch with Jordan all over him. Like, they're good players, and so that's going to happen. But yeah, I thought, and this is going to take me to one of my main points of the game. And I don't mean to jump around, but
sorry.
I thought that Ohio State, after tying it at 10-10 in the first half, had a real shot to completely change momentum at the end of the first half with that drive when Maryland gets the ball back, and then they end up getting the field goal. Or they end up not getting a field goal.
Not getting a field goal, yeah.
Ohio State had all three timeouts and came out playing super soft birthday party. And I don't understand why. You had them at their own 25-yard line. You had a minute and 40 seconds. You had three timeouts. Why not come out? Your defense had done a great job affecting them for the entire last 10 minutes of the second quarter. Why come out and play soft and letting them? I don't know. It just seemed weird. I thought there was a missed opportunity for Ohio State.
Well, that is, I think, the bit of frustration. And it's funny, frustration is probably the wrong word because they're so good. Like, I think this is an elite defense, but it's an adjustment, maybe, I guess, to see them play that way. When, like, certainly they would not have done that last year.
Yeah.
But maybe if they did what they did last year, like Talia throws a 75-yard touchdown pass over their heads, and I think that's why they do it. You just got to get off the field on third down. I want to go back to that. Like, there wasn't a penalty on that drive, was there?
Well, there were a couple penalties on that drive. There was the pass interference on Denzel Burke. There was the roughing the passer penalty or unnecessary roughness on Michael Hall, which
they should have got off the field there. That was a bad call.
And to be honest, though, like that penalty probably saved Ohio State 3 points because Maryland was satisfied with taking a field goal, and instead they ended up getting their eyes got bigger than their stomach, and they tried to like keep moving the ball and ended up not scoring because they didn't have any timeouts. But yeah, I mean, I think the defense had played so well. And one of my other notes is that, after the Ransom interception, Ohio State takes the lead 20-17 because the Buckeyes bogged down again in the red zone. That's a moment where Maryland could have really, felt good about itself and started to regain some momentum. But the defense had figured out what Maryland was doing offensively so completely at that point that Maryland didn't. After their first drive of the second half, they had nothing the rest of the game.
They had, after that first drive, or after the first drive of the second half, it was like a 9-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. They ran 21 plays and got 31 yards. The rest of the game.
It was a complete wipeout from there, and so that was a credit to the defense. Safety play, pretty good. I thought that Josh Proctor, I said it on Snap Judgments, the kickoff return that he almost knocked himself out after the Buckeyes made it 10-10 was one play that I really had circled during the live watch of the game as like a kind of a momentum shift. Everyone else seemed to, after the Buckeyes tied at 17-17, sorry. But there was one in the second quarter on the third down and goal where Maryland ran like the QB sweep with Talia. And Josh did such a great job just dragging that out to the sideline and let everyone else catch up. And like that play, if you go down 14-0 there, the whole game feels different, I think. And he just, he had a couple plays where he was a little late, but hard to argue that, can we get a 7th year, Josh, or not? Can we find one?
It's crazy we're there with him, but I don't disagree with it. You mentioned, like, was it JT and Tyleek sort of like doing little things that might go unnoticed? I think Josh is doing that stuff too. Like the pick 6 is awesome, right? And he's made some key tackles for them. But there was a play in the first half where Maryland tried like a fake handoff, and then they got Talia outside, and there was like a run pass option kind of thing, and Josh played it perfectly. Like he was between the receiver in the flat and Talia. He like baited Talia to think that he was going to go to the receiver. So Talia tucked the ball and ran with it. And then Josh just smothered him. And that's a play that I think it's like a little misdirection. I think can get out for a big hit. And Josh squashed it for 2 yards.
It also shows the difference between what he did in the past now, because that play happened in the first half as well. And Talia slipped. And Josh, it was like their first drive of the game. So
that's the play I'm talking about. I thought Josh played that really well. Talia like slid.
Yeah.
I didn't think he slipped.
That happened later in the game also, where he had it again. And then there was another play where they had a little jump off to the tight end where Josh like came down and it was a 2-yard loss. Like he's showing something, and he's turned himself into an NFL like dude. And it's pretty awesome. Sonny Styles is really good.
I want to posit something to you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I think they probably need to play Jordan Hancock a lot. Because I didn't love watching Sonny try to cover like Jay Sean Jones and Corey Dyches, who's like a 215-pound tight end. He's basically a receiver. Sonny play linebacker a little bit. Like if we're gonna take Steele off the field, can we get a little Will linebacker from Sonny Styles? I
mean, I said it 3 weeks ago. I think that Ohio State needs to just have Jordan and Sonny on the field at the same time, and I think it's easy enough to do. It's a simple fix. Like,
yeah, they did it like twice.
What do you get out of Steele? What do you get out of Steele that you don't get out of Sonny? That's my question.
Experience,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you get experience?
Yeah, no, fair. Yeah, point well taken. I think you're right. They had Sonny and Jordan Hancock on the field together on a couple of like I guess they probably consider them dime looks, but they're more just like nickel looks because Sonny is like kind of playing linebacker. But there's only 3 down linemen when they do that. But I don't know. I think eventually Sonny's going to be a linebacker, or maybe he'll play the Lathan Ransom role, which is like effectively a linebacker anyway.
When I think eventually in the NFL he's going to like. I understand the Isaiah Simmons comparisons, and we all want to see him do crazy unicorn things. You can still do that from linebacker. Isaiah Simmons, I bet you, wishes that he played a true position in college because he's not been able to figure out where he is in the NFL either. Sonny, and there was one sack that did they credit him with a sack on that? The
blitz? No, they counted as a TFL. Yeah,
which is stupid because Talia was not. It was not a quarterback draw on that 3rd and 9. He saw Sonny coming. He saw Sonny coming and panicked and started to run. Like that's whatever. Yeah, I mean you can. I don't know why you don't play him there. I guarantee you that there are people who are inside of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center who maybe work with the linebackers who are trying very hard to convince young Mr. Styles to just dive into linebacker full time. But then you look at the safety room after this year and you're like, oh, maybe Sonny needs to play safety because it's going to be kind of weird next year. Special teams. We don't normally talk about special teams, and we are approaching an hour. Unbelievably, we did it.
Wow, I can't believe we're here.
Again, I've never seen a snap that was that bad in my life. I don't know if it hit a seam on the field somehow. It was weird. What happened? I don't know. The 5 guys in the backfield that I talked about on snap judgments on the 26-yard was garbage. That should not have been a penalty. There were 4 guys in the backfield, and Xavier Johnson, when the ball got kicked, was in the backfield because he got pushed into the backfield because he was lined up on the line of scrimmage as when that play started.
Okay.
Emeka Ibuka, don't catch a punt running backwards at the 10-yard line. I mean, these are rules of football that everyone knows. Like I know we've elevated the game a little bit, and now it's not like you automatically let it hit inside of the 10, whatever. If you're running backwards and catching it at the 10, it's probably a poor decision. And that ball was a rocket shot that this punter kicked from 70 yards or whatever. The momentum of that ball is going into the end zone. Just let it go. Jesse Mirko. I'm not sure that I don't understand why he doesn't ever just lay into one. Bad day all around for special teams, man.
It was a bad special teams day. I guess I won't belabor the point. We talked a lot about it on the post-game show, but
let's see.
I don't know what they're doing. I think it's a wasted coaching position, but I'm just a man.
I really like Parker Fleming. I'm just not sure that you're getting what you need to get out of that group to justify being one of the few schools in the country that have a full-time special teams coordinator. And I think that's the rub. Doug said it on the post-game show. It's obvious. Like, if you have James Laurinaitis as a full-time assistant and have him on the road recruiting, you're probably gaining something there. At least in the recruiting side. Other things I notes. These are my little just thoughts. I don't think Fox does a very good job of broadcasting the fan noise in the stadium. Because it was loud. Like,
was it? Okay.
It was loud, especially after the Proctor interception, after the JT sack. Like, there were moments in that stadium where it was like loud on Saturday. And I wrote here, the Buckeye fans deserve credit for picking up the slack when the offense was way behind, because they kept the Buckeyes defense juiced up, and it was loud in the stadium. So listening to it on TV, I'm like, you can't hear it, but it was thunder.
Yeah. I didn't feel like I got that. That's good to hear. I'm glad that's the case. I did hear the groans when the Ohio State was on offense in the first half, but I don't know that I heard it getting exceptionally loud. So that's good to hear, especially for like a kind of lazy noon kickoff. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, the fans did a nice job. Good job, Ohio Stadium. There's a lot of other things that we could say, but we've said an hour's worth of things.
We also have 17 more shows to do this week, so I'm sure they'll come out at some point.
Bottom line, Purdue's next. You cannot go into Ross-Ade Stadium and play sleepy football for a half. Like, you have to start putting this all together if you're Ohio State, and that is the concern. You had the off week. I've said it a bunch of times in the last 2 weeks. Like, last year after the off week, Ohio State was bad, and Ryan Day said, we did something different. We were doing things different, and then they came out and were bad. So if you're doing different things and the results are the same, that's an issue of motivation, I think. And I don't doubt Ryan Day at all as the head coach. I think that he's woefully underappreciated by the Ohio State fan base as far as what he is as an emotional leader. Like, I think people don't get to see that side of him, but something isn't translating to the players on this team, because it just feels at times like they are okay with being okay. And I don't think that that's what Buckeyes fans accept.
I think that's true of the offense. I don't know that I'd say that of the defense. I think the defense is playing with a lot of juice. Which is good, because they're carrying the team, I think. I'm very interested to see how they come out against Purdue. It's another noon kick, right? So it's 11 local time.
It's actually not. West Lafayette is not on
time.
No.
Okay.
I thought so as well, but Mick Walker from 247 Sports, who covers Purdue, told me I was wrong about that.
Shout out to Mick.
I Googled it, and he's right.
Friend of the program, Mick Walker. Josh Proctor, Matt Jones, was like Xavier Johnson around back then too when they lost that game at Purdue in 2018?
If he wasn't playing.
But I think he was on the team, right?
Proctor was asked about it in post game, and you're one of the two guys that played in that game, and how important is this one to you? So he said, I've had this one cycled. I remember this. So
yeah, it's not necessarily about it being important, but it's like it's good for Ohio State. I think that there are guys on the roster who can tell them, like, this place is weird. Like, bring your stuff.
It's a vacuum of normalcy.
Yeah. Also, there have been there have been a not insignificant number of comparisons to the 2002 Ohio State season, and that game at Purdue sure got interesting that year. So we'll see what this one entails.
Yeah, let's hope there's no Holy Buckeye. I don't know that we want to get to that point. I'm having a tough time, like, forgetting that Doug said, think of Kyle McCord as Craig Krenzel. Right.
It's an elevated form of Greg Krenzel.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's where you want to go with your 5-star quarterback. Should not be reminding folks of your,
you don't want it.
Your unranked quarterback from Utica, Michigan. So. Hey, national championship winner, Greg Renzel.
He's got a ring.
Not taking anything away from the guy, but let's be honest, the offense is a little different now, and that's my other point. Final thing. Ohio State in 5 games that has been ugly, clunky, wonky, disheveled, disorganized, has the Big Ten's number 1 ranked offense. Are we guilty of comparing or stacking this Ohio State team up against Ohio State teams of the past, or are we stacking them against the current Big Ten? And that's, I think, the question that I want to ask.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's good perspective, I think. And it's not like I have issues with like the way they're choosing to go about business, right? But if the point is maybe they're not going to average almost 50 points a game every season, like some seasons look different than others, I think that's a point well taken, or point well made. But they're like, they can still be better, right? They're far from hitting on all cylinders on offense. But it's also fair to question like what exactly is their offensive ceiling in a world where this offensive line and run game are not particularly good. So
yeah, and then that spirals into, is the offensive ceiling good enough to win with an elite defense? And
maybe
I think it is, but I still think that the offensive line has to show up. So we'll see if that happens on Saturday.
Yep. Roosters coming later today, right?
Roosters 11:45 on Monday. We'll be starting up the show in the Horseshoe Lounge on Roosters and Olentangy River Road. If you want to join us there, we've got Kings of the North coming with you and Doug. We'll have all of our normal stuff this week. Road breaks on Friday will be a good time in Indiana, our second home, and looking forward to just a normal week of coverage. And hopefully we'll get some answers on the health of Ohio State. Hopefully we'll get an answer on Dallin Hayden's role. We'll try to figure out all that stuff as we go along. So that's where we're at.
Yep. Another jam-packed week coming here on the podcast. We appreciate you guys spending your Monday morning with us. For Berm, I am Bill. We'll catch you later.